Two suns scorched the sky of four like burning giants, turning the farmland soil into red dust and long shadows. Settlers, traders, and soldiers passed through the colony, but not many stayed. It was a world of scars, still healing from the recent war between humans and the race. Every village had stories of loss. Every heart carried bitterness. And in the middle of this uneasy peace walked a tired human named Hale. His boots were torn, the soles patched with cloth and hope. His backpack was nearly empty except for a water bottle and a broken photo frame. His shoulders were heavy from more than the sun. The memories of war clung to him like chains, faces, screams, fire, and regret. He had fought for duty, but duty did not protect him from nightmares. He had lost his parents, his brother, his home. After the war ended, he wandered among colonies searching for work, but most places did not trust a human veteran. They looked at him and saw danger, violence, or guilt. Reached the small village of Vale, where homes were built with a mix of wood and alien. The houses glowed faintly blue in the evening light. Children of humans and aliens played in the dusty streets, though most kept their distance from strangers. Women carrying baskets paused to stare at him, some curious, some afraid. Men whispered. He ignored them. He had grown used to it. He did not come for friendship. He came because he was hungry, tired, and desperate for work. At the edge of the village, he saw a lonely farm resting near a forest of tall silver-leaf trees. The fruit trees were blue and heavy, but dry pipes and damaged equipment hinted at struggle. A small house stood near the entrance, simple, clean, but worn from storms. There, kneeling beside a broken water pump, was a woman unlike any human he had ever seen. She had violet skin that shimmered gently under the sun and long dark hair braided with silver threads. Her eyes were golden and soft, yet clouded by sadness. A faded white cloak covered her shoulders, and her hands were rough from work. She was one of the alien people humans once fought. But saw something else, loneliness. He hesitated before approaching her. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet and respectful. "Excuse me," he said. "Do you need help? I'm looking for work." She looked up, startled. Her gaze scanned him, tired boots, ragged clothes, exhausted eyes. She noticed the scars on his forearms and the faint tremor in his hands. She studied him as if trying to understand who he really was. "You are human," she said softly. He nodded, yes. Most would have turned away, but she didn't. Her name was, learned it later, but in that moment she was simply a stranger facing another stranger. He cleared his throat. "I can fix machinery, I can harvest, I can guard the farm if needed. I need work, food, and a place to sleep. That's all I ask." His voice carried more than desperation. It carried fear, fear of being rejected again, fear of being alone again. Did not answer quickly. She looked toward her broken home. She looked at the silent fields, and then she looked at him deeply as if his soul were written on his face. "You want work," she said slowly. "But the work I need is different." Frowned, unsure. Did she doubt his skills? Did she fear him because of the war? Did she think he would bring trouble? He prepared himself for rejection. But instead, she whispered words that stunned him. "I do not need a worker," she said. "I need a father." Froze, the air around him grew heavy. He searched her eyes, confused and shocked. A father for whom? He opened his mouth, but no words came. Continued, voice trembling with pain. "My mate died in the war. My daughter is alone. I am alone. The farm needs hands, but my child needs a heart." His chest tightened. He came looking for work. Instead, he found a broken family. He did not know whether to run away or kneel down. He had faced battles. He had survived fire. But this, being needed not as a soldier or worker, but as a father, felt harder than any war. And under the twin suns of four, two strangers stood facing each other. One seeking work, one seeking love. Their journey had only begun, stood frozen on the cracked stone path, staring at. Her words echoed in his mind. "I need a father, not a worker." He had expected rejection, cold looks, or suspicion. He had not expected grief. He had not expected hope. He had not expected responsibility, especially one that went beyond tools, harvests, or the physical labor he could offer. A father, to someone else's child, to a child he had never met. straightened and wiped her hands on her worn cloak. The golden glow of the twin suns made her skin shimmer softly, like melted metal. She looked older than her years, though her frame was strong. She had lived through loss and hardship. She had survived grief, yet it had left a mark in her eyes, deep pools of pain and love intertwined. "My mate," she began, voice trembling slightly, "was killed during the last war. He was human like you, brave, kind, foolish sometimes. He died protecting our village, protecting us. I promised him I would raise our daughter alone, but—" Her voice cracked. She looked toward the small wooden house behind her where smoke curled from the chimney. "I am not enough. My hands are full, but my heart cannot stretch any further without help." Swallowed hard, he had heard stories of the war, of human soldiers fighting. He had heard about villages burned and lives destroyed. But now, here was a woman speaking of loss in a way that felt too human, too real. He had felt alone. He had felt useless. And suddenly he understood that she had felt the same. "My daughter," said softly. "Her name is Ari. She is 6 years old. She cries sometimes at night, wondering where her father went. I try to explain, but she doesn't understand. I can manage the farm, the house, even the fruit trees. But I cannot be everything she needs. I cannot be both mother and father. I need someone who can teach her, guide her, protect her. Not just with work, but with heart." His chest tightened. Memories of his own family surfaced, faces of parents, siblings, friends lost to war and time. He had wandered, searching for purpose, searching for work, and hoping to escape the hollow ache of loss. Yet here was a woman asking him for the impossible, to heal not himself but a child's broken heart, to be needed, to be wanted. "I began but held up a hand, stopping him gently. "I am not asking for a hero," she said. "I am asking for a human who can love, someone willing to be patient, someone willing to stay when the nights are cold, when the fruit is scarce, when the villagers whisper. That is what we need. That is what Ari needs." The silence stretched. A gentle wind blew through the silver leaves of the trees. Dust swirled in the late afternoon light. Could hear the faint drip of water from the broken pump he had just seen. It was broken, like the family he now faced. And somehow, without asking for it, he felt the pull of responsibility. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not a stranger, not an alien, not a widow, but someone fighting alone in a world that had taken everything from her. And beside her, a small, unseen figure. Ari waited for someone to care, someone to fill a hole her father's death had left. "I don't know if I can do it," admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I am strong enough. I've failed people before. I've failed myself." His golden eyes softened. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "None of us are perfect," she said. "None of us can erase the past. We only have the choice to care, to love, to try again. You do not have to be perfect. You only have to be willing." The weight of her words settled on him like a warm blanket. He thought of the battles he had fought, the horrors he had seen, the emptiness he had carried. And for the first time in years, he felt something different. Not fear, not doubt, but hope. A faint sound came from the house, a soft, curious giggle. Ari was watching, cautious but drawn to him, her small eyes peeking from behind the doorframe, felt a lump in his throat. She had no idea who he was, and yet her presence alone reminded him why he had survived. Smiled faintly, a smile tinged with sorrow and longing. "You may not understand it now," she said softly, "but staying, choosing to help, it may heal us all, even you." Exhaled slowly. His hands, calloused from labor and battle, felt heavy with new purpose. He nodded quietly, not fully ready, but willing to try. And as the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting orange and pink light over the farm, realized something he had not felt in a long time. He was needed. Not for work, not for gold, not for recognition, but for love, for family, for something bigger than himself. For the first time in years, he imagined a home, small, humble, imperfect, but filled with warmth. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew. This was the start of a story that could change all of them, decided to stay. Not because he was certain he could be a father, but because he could not leave the little girl and her mother alone. He began his work at the farm the next morning. The sun rose slowly over the silver-leaf trees, casting pale light on the cracked stone path, the blue fruit hanging heavily from the branches, and the small wooden house where and her daughter lived. He carried water barrels, repaired broken plows, and dug trenches in the dry soil. His hands were blistered, his back ached, and sweat ran down his face. But something about this work felt different. It was not just labor, it was care. Every tree he watered, every pipe he fixed, seemed to matter in a way that battle never had. He was not fighting enemies. He was fighting neglect, failure, and the quiet despair that lingered over the farm. Ari watched him from a distance at first. She would hide behind the corner of the house, peeking out with wide, curious eyes. Noticed her but did not rush. He remembered the fear in children he had once known, children who had lost families in war. He understood that trust had to be earned. One evening, as the sun dipped low, found her kneeling in the dirt, trying to repair a small mechanical toy that had stopped working weeks ago. Her hands shook with frustration. She was quiet, almost invisible, but the sadness in her little eyes cut through's chest like a knife. "May I help?" he asked gently. Ari hesitated. Then she nodded. Together they worked in silence, guided her small fingers, showed her how to reconnect wires and how to wind the toy correctly. Slowly, the toy hummed and whirred to life. Ari's face lit up with a smile so bright it warmed his heart more than any meal or shelter ever could. "You did it," she whispered, hugging the toy close. "No," said, smiling softly, "we did it together." From that moment, the walls around her began to crumble. She followed him as he carried water, helped harvest blue fruit, and fed the small animals that roamed the farm. She began to talk more, sharing stories of her mother, the stars, and even of her lost father. Listened quietly, learning the rhythm of her small world, and in return she began to trust him. Watched them with a quiet heartache and cautious hope. She had seen humans before, but never one who stayed with kindness instead of demanding payment. Did not just work for her. He worked for the little family, for the heart he could see breaking inside the home. And something about that gave her courage. Yet not everything was easy. The villagers whispered. Some shot glances from the road, suspicious of the human living with the. Occasionally, someone would leave an empty crate or broken tool as a warning. Noticed these small threats but chose to ignore them. He was not here for war, he was here for family. And slowly began to see that this man, so broken himself, might actually be strong enough to hold them all together. One night while the twins' moons rose high above the farm, sat outside on the soft dirt, Ari curled beside him, her small head resting against his arm. They watched fireflies dance across the field. He did not know what the future would bring, only that the present mattered. "Why did you stay?" she asked suddenly, looking up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Sighed, unsure how to answer. "Because I think I can help, and because you need someone, and maybe I need someone too." Ari smiled, a tiny flicker of hope in her heart. "Then don't leave." "I won't," he whispered, pressing a hand to her small head. Stood at the doorway, watching them silently. She could feel the change happening. Her daughter's laughter returned, tentative but real. His presence brought warmth, light, and a kind of hope she had not dared to imagine since her mate's death. The farm itself seemed to respond. The water ran smoother, the animals were calmer, even the trees seemed more vibrant. For the first time in years, felt the possibility of peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from silence or fear, but the kind that comes from love, trust, and shared burdens. And as she watched and Ari together, she realized that her daughter was beginning to see a father where only strangers had once walked. But peace, she knew, was fragile. The world outside the farm was not kind to those who dared to love across lines drawn by war. And while they were building trust, something, or someone, was watching, waiting to test the bond, and Ari were forging. Still in the quiet twilight of that first week, with laughter echoing across the fields and the blue fruit hanging heavy on the trees, understood something profound. He had come for work, but he had found a home. He had come to survive, but he had begun to live. And the family they were building, fragile and imperfect, was stronger than any battle he had ever fought. The journey had only begun, but for the first time felt that perhaps, just perhaps, he was exactly where he belonged. The next morning the farm was quiet, but the tension in the village of Vale was growing like a storm. Whispers carried from house to house, bouncing along the dusty streets. Villagers shook their heads and muttered under their breaths about the human who had come to live with and her daughter. Some said he was brave. Some said he was foolish. Others said he was dangerous. Noticed the changes the moment he left the farm to fetch tools in the village. A group of men, tall and broad-shouldered, blocked the path. Their eyes glinted with anger, suspicion, and fear. "You have no right here," one of them snarled, stepping forward. "You are a human, you bring death with your kind." Kept his hands at his sides. "I am not here to fight, I am here to work, to help." The men laughed bitterly. "Help," another said. "Your kind destroyed our homes, killed our kin, and now you expect to live here in peace." Felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He had survived battles and storms, fires and starvation, but this, the judgment of a people who remembered the war, who had lost friends and family to humans, this was harder than anything he had faced before. "I am not here to replace anyone," said calmly, though his hands trembled. "I am here to care for a family that needs me." They spat on the ground in response, eyes burning with anger. "A family? She had a husband, a human hero. You are nothing compared to him." Felt a surge of guilt. He had never met Smate, yet he felt the weight of comparison pressing down on him. He wanted to leave, to retreat, but he could not abandon the small girl waiting at the farm. Returning home that evening found signs of violence. The front gate was splintered. A bucket of water had been thrown against the wall, staining the floor. Aries' small voice called from inside, trembling. "What happened?" He knelt and held her close. "It's okay, little one. They're scared, but we're safe, I promise." Arrived shortly after, seeing the damage and calm response. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a moment. "They think I am replacing their hero with a human," she said quietly. "They do not understand that he is not here to take anyone's place. He is here to help me and to help my daughter." Looked at her, the weight of her words heavy on his shoulders. He realized that staying was no longer just about work or even family. It was about courage, about standing for what was right, even when others opposed you. That night the village grew quiet under the twin moons, but the tension did not fade, and sat together on the porch, Aries sleeping peacefully inside. Hands were sore from the day's work, and his heart ached from the confrontation in the village. "They hate me," he said softly. "I thought I could make a difference here, but maybe they will never accept me." Placed her hand on his. "Acceptance takes time," she said, "and some may never come to it, but that does not mean we stop living. That does not mean we stop loving. We fight, yes, but not with anger. We fight with patience, with care, with strength in our hearts." Nodded slowly, feeling the truth in her words. He looked toward the field where the trees swayed gently in the night wind, their blue fruit glinting under the moons. Somehow the farm seemed to breathe with them. The animals moved quietly in their pens. And Aerie, the small child who had begun to trust him, who had smiled at him for the first time in weeks, was asleep and safe. For the first time, he realized that strength was not only about physical power. It was about endurance. It was about standing firm when the world judged you. And most of all, it was about protecting those you loved, even when others did not understand. Stayed awake long into the night, watching the stars appear one by one. His mind wandered to the day he had arrived, ragged, weary, searching for work. He had come for survival, but now he understood he had come for something far more important. A family, a home, a chance to prove that humanity could bring compassion, not just destruction. The village might resist, the whispers might continue, stones might be thrown and threats made. But he knew deep inside that he would not leave, he would stay. He would protect an Aerie, and he would teach the village slowly that love, courage, and humanity could flourish even in the harshest of worlds. And as he finally closed his eyes, exhausted but determined, felt a quiet promise settle in his heart. No matter what tomorrow brought, he would not run. He would not falter. He would stay and fight for the family that needed him most. Days passed, and the farm was quieter than usual. The whispers of the village still lingered in the air and could feel them like cold wind brushing against his back. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. Every morning he woke to chores that seemed endless. Fixing broken pipes, hauling water, harvesting blue fruit, and repairing fences damaged by storms or careless hands. But it was not just physical labor that wore him down. It was the emotional weight of the family he had promised to protect. Aerie's laughter, once bright and easy, now came cautiously. She had begun to test him, asking questions about her father, about the war, about whether he would stay forever. Loved her curiosity, but he feared his own answers. Every story of loss reminded him of his failures. Every hug from the small child reminded him of the emptiness he carried inside. One evening, after a long day under the twin suns, collapsed onto the ground near the fruit trees. Sweat streaked his face, his muscles ached, and his chest felt tight. He had thought he could handle this, that he could be more than a soldier, more than a human with scars. But now he felt the cracks in himself widening. Approached, her golden eyes soft but searching. She said, voice hesitant, "Are you all right?" He shook his head, unable to meet her gaze. I can't do this," he admitted, voice breaking. "I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough for her, for you. I've failed so many people before. How can I not fail you too?" Knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle but firm, a reminder that she believed in him even when he could not believe in himself. She said quietly, "No one is perfect. No one can erase the past. We only do what we can with what we have. You are here alive, choosing to care. That is enough." "I can't be a father," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't even know how, I'm just broken." His eyes glimmered with unshed tears. "You don't have to know how," she said softly. "You only have to try. Ari doesn't need someone perfect. She needs someone who will stay, someone who will love her, someone who will protect her heart." His chest ached. He had faced enemies in war, stood on battlefields surrounded by death, and yet never had a fight felt so personal, so impossible. He wanted to flee, to run back into the emptiness he knew, where no one depended on him. But then he felt a small hand slip into his, Ari's hand, warm, trusting, waiting. She looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Please don't go," she whispered. Swallowed hard, tears threatening to fall. Her small voice cut through the storm of doubt inside him. He realized that he could not abandon her. Not now, not ever. Watched silently, letting the child and the man find their connection. She had felt the pain in his heart, the fear, the memories that haunted him. She understood that he doubted himself because he had survived where others had not, because he carried scars that could not be seen. And yet, in this moment, she also knew something powerful. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Looked at her then, really looked. He saw the woman who had lost everything and yet stood tall. He saw the little girl who had lost her father but could still smile, laugh, and hope. And he understood, finally, why he was here. I will stay," he said, voice firm but soft. "I don't know how to be a father, I don't know if I can ever be perfect, but I will stay, I will try, and I will protect both of you no matter what." Ari threw her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly. Felt the weight in his chest shift, less fear, more purpose. Placed a hand on his other shoulder, eyes shining with relief and gratitude. For the first time, realized that love was not about strength, perfection, or past failures. It was about presence. It was about choice. Every hug, every smile, every small act of care was a battle he could win. And in the quiet twilight of the farm, under the silver light of the twin moons, the three of them sat together, fragile and imperfect, but bound by trust, hope, and the beginnings of a family. Had faced his breaking point, and in doing so, he had found the courage to begin again. He had found that sometimes the hardest battles were not fought with weapons or hands, but with the heart. And in that moment he knew he would not run, he would not falter. He would stay, and he would fight for them, for love, for family, and for the home they were slowly building together. The storm clouds gathered early that day, dark and heavy over the village of Vale. The wind whipped across the cracked stone paths and rattled the doors of homes, carrying whispers and rumors like leaves in its path. Word had spread of the human living with an Ari, and not all villagers were pleased. Fear and anger clung to them, simmering beneath polite greetings and averted gazes. Was working in the orchard, lifting baskets of blue fruit when he saw them, four of the village's strongest men marching toward the farm. Their faces were hard, their eyes cold, their hands curled into fists. They moved with purpose, clearly intending confrontation. Saw them too. She stood at the doorway of the house, her violet skin glowing softly under the dim sun, golden eyes narrowing. She stepped forward, her posture straight and unyielding. Ari peeked from behind her cloak, small and trembling, but her mother's calm strength radiated over her. Placed a hand on shoulder. "I'll handle them," he said quietly. "No," replied firmly. "We handle this together, you are not alone." The men reached the gate, stopping just short of the porch. The tallest of them, a named, spoke first. He said, voice sharp as stone, "You should know better. You live with a human. He is dangerous. We cannot allow this to continue. Leave him, or we will remove him." Stepped forward, jaw set. "I am not leaving," he said. "I am not here to fight, but I will protect this family." Moved beside him, standing tall, her golden eyes steady. "You are wrong. He is not a threat. He is part of this family. He is here to help, to protect, to love. My daughter and I need him just as much as he needs us." The villagers glared, some murmuring, others scowling. "She speaks as if he can replace the hero who died," spat. "He is nothing compared to your lost mate." His hands curled into fists. He could feel the anger rising, the old instincts from war bubbling to the surface. But he took a deep breath, forcing it down. His fight was not with them, not with weapons or violence, but with truth, courage, and patience. "I do not seek to replace him," said firmly, voice echoing across the farm. "I am not here to erase your hero. I am here to honor him by caring for what he loved, his wife, his daughter, his home. And I will do that as long as I breathe." His voice rose beside his, soft but unwavering. "We will not run, we will not hide. You may not understand, but love is stronger than fear. Compassion is stronger than anger. And humanity, yours, mine, ours, can overcome hatred if we choose it." The villagers hesitated. A few shifted uncomfortably. Some of the men lowered their heads, unsure how to respond. The wind blew stronger, rustling the silver leaves of the trees, carrying its words into the air like a promise. Eri stepped forward, small but brave. She held his hand and looked at the villagers. "He stayed," she said softly, voice trembling but clear. "He didn't run, he didn't leave me, and he's kind. Please, please let him stay." For a moment, silence fell. The villagers could see it, a family, fragile but united, standing together against fear. They could see love and trust in the small child's eyes, strength in the widow's gaze, and courage in the human posture. Finally exhaled sharply. "Perhaps we judged too quickly," he muttered. The others exchanged uneasy glances. Not all accepted it, but the confrontation ended without bloodshed. The storm passed, leaving a quiet tension behind. Turn two, voice soft. "We did it," he said. "No," she replied, placing a hand on his chest. "We did it together." Eri smiled and wrapped her arms around both of them, held them close, feeling a warmth he had never known. The farm was still fragile, the village still wary, but they had survived the test. They had proven that compassion, courage, and unity could overcome fear. That night under the twin moons, the three of them sat together outside. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of fruit and earth. Felt the weight in his chest lift slightly. He was tired, bruised, and still learning, but he knew one thing with certainty: he belonged here. And for the first time since arriving at the farm, he understood the full meaning of strength. Not strength in battle, not strength in survival, but strength in standing together, protecting those you love, and refusing to let the world's anger define your heart. They were a family, and nothing, not fear, not hatred, not whispers, could take that from them. Seasons changed over the farm. The twin suns of four moved across the sky, painting fields of silver leaves and blue fruit with gold and amber light. The air smelled of earth and growing things, and the farm had begun to feel alive, not just as land, but as a home. The work was still hard, but it carried a new rhythm now, a rhythm of hope. Eri laughed freely again. She ran between the rows of fruit trees, her small feet kicking up dust, her voice carrying over the fields. She told stories about her father, about the stars, about things she imagined he would have loved, and listened. He taught her to plant seeds, care for animals, and tend the orchard. Every day he grew stronger, not just in body, but in heart. Watched them both, golden eyes soft with pride. She had once believed her heart could never heal, that the emptiness left by her mate's death was permanent. But now she saw it filling, slowly, carefully, with trust, laughter, and love. She looked at and felt gratitude, awe, and something more. He had not come to her as a hero, not with grand promises or weapons, but with patience, courage, and kindness. He had chosen to stay, and in staying, he had become more than anyone could have imagined. The villagers, once suspicious, began to change too. They observed caring for the farm, helping and Eri, and standing beside them when storms hit or crops failed. Slowly, the whispers of anger faded. Some approached with cautious smiles. Others nodded silently in respect. And in their hearts they saw proof that humans were not only destroyers, they could also be protectors, teachers, and friends. One evening on the anniversary of her mate's death, placed flowers at the memorial stone near the edge of the orchard. Stood beside her, Ares' small hand tucked into his. The twin moons reflected off the silver leaves, casting soft light over the three of them. "We do not forget him," said quietly, his voice full of reverence. "But we honor him by caring for what he loved, by keeping this farm alive, by keeping your daughter safe and happy." Nodded eyes glistening. "And by allowing someone new to love us," she said softly. Her gaze met, and for a moment words were unnecessary. The bond they had built over weeks of trust, trials, and care was stronger than anything spoken. Ari leaned against them, smiling up at the two adults who had become her family. "We're together," she whispered. "Yes," replied, hugging her close, "and we always will be." That night the three of them sat outside the small house, gazing at the stars. The farm was quiet, peaceful, and alive. The animals rested, the trees shimmered, and the wind carried a gentle song of life. Breathed deeply, feeling a sense of belonging he had not known since childhood. He had come to this world seeking work, a place to survive. Instead, he had found purpose, love, and family. Rested her head on his shoulder. "You've given us hope," she said softly. "A family, a home, someone to trust." Smiled, watching Ares' chest rise and fall in peaceful sleep. "No," he replied gently. "You've given me the same. I was lost before I came here, but now I am found." The farm had grown stronger just as they had. The walls of suspicion and fear that had once separated humans and began to crumble, showing what was always possible: unity, compassion, and understanding. Humanity in its best form was not about war or conquest. It was about courage, kindness, and love. Embodied that truth not with weapons or authority, but with his heart. Seasons would continue to change. Storms would come. Villagers would sometimes judge. Life would never be easy, but together they were unbreakable. And as the twin moons rose high, casting silver light across the farm, realized something profound. He had come seeking work, but he had found something far greater. He had found family, love, and a chance to prove that humans could be more than what others feared. In the heart of Four, under the watch of alien skis, a human, a widow, and a small child had built something extraordinary. A home, a family, and hope. And in that quiet field, surrounded by silver leaves and blue fruit, humanity's finest strength shone. Not in power, not in war, but in the simple, unyielding act of caring for one another. And Ares smiled together. The past was remembered. The future was uncertain. But the present, this family, this love was theirs, and nothing could take it away. HFY